Howdy y'all, considerable bulk here. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be fixing one of these ready for MK11, because the last thing that you want going into a brand new game full of all brand new players is to have something like this happen to you constantly.
My face! Son! You're in the wrong place, son. No, I didn't want that. No, I didn't want sun.
I've taken the liberty of arranging some of the tools that you might need going into a job like this. These are certainly some of the tools I used the first time I had a crack at this. You might need one of these, maybe move on to something like that. If that doesn't work, these are very good. These are very good. Obviously, you might have to bring out the big guns at some point, and of course my favourite, just in case. However, what I thought I'd try this time is I'd start off with a tiny screwdriver like this one here and see if I'm going to need everything else. Right. Now obviously safety first, need to make sure that you have all of the correct protective equipment and clothing, like gloves and goggles. Okay, a clean workstation, I've got one of those. Okay, so let's get started. So what are we going to be replacing today to make our inputs perfect going into the new game? Well, what I did is I took the liberty of buying a couple of packets of these. These are just generic replacement conductive internal rubber membranes for your DualShock controllers on your PS4. You can get them from anywhere. I personally prefer using a very famous multinational online marketplace. It's eBay. I've got two of them because I've got two controllers. I'm going to put this one away for now. I'm going to lose that one too. First thing you're going to do is take your controller, and on the back you'll see there are some screw holes. If you can, there we go. Alright, so there's a screw hole right there. There are 4 that you need to deal with using your screwdriver. So I'm going to do that right quick now. Right, they're all removed now. If you can see that, they've all been removed. These are tiny. They are tiny, and losing them would be a real dampener on your day. But try not to. That's why I've put this little matting out. Then what you do, take your controller, and the first time you crack it open you might need to use a tool of some description. I showed you some earlier. Maybe use one of those. But crack it open like so, and be very careful. I open it this way up because stuff falls out otherwise. Now right here you'll see a cable, a white cable going from the back of the controller into the front, and that is very important not to destroy. So I'm going to lay it out like this. I'm going to just put it to the side like so. Right, in here you have a battery here. Go ahead and remove that. There is a connector just there. You need to remove that one like so. Okay, then take the battery out, which is done. Okay, battery gone. Right, next there is another screw which holds the board onto the controller casing itself. I'm going to take that one out like so. I don't know if I mentioned it, but these are very fiddly screws. There you go, don't lose that one either. Right, now it's free to be split open, split apart. Right, now the trickiest bit is the scrolly thing here, the touchpad on your controller. So when you come to split it open, what I do is I push the joysticks here, which should lift the whole assembly. Then wiggle it out a little bit, and now this thing here will go, if you look at it from this angle, is going to go up a bit and down. So we're going to lift it up and get it over a piece of plastic which is inside, holding it in place. It's like a little shelf. Not sure if you can see, but it's in there. So I'm going to lift it over that piece there and get it through the hole, like so. Now this stuff, don't throw it away. You're going to need that later, but carefully put it to one side. There you go. Now we have the bit that gives everyone most trouble, which is the D-pad and the buttons. And what gives you trouble is these membranes on the back. Now there are membranes for everything on the controller, including the share button, the start button, the PS button, the shoulder buttons also have their own membranes as well. I'm just going to be replacing these ones because the principle is the same for all of them. This is the easiest bit. You make sure you get your new ones here. You can't make a mistake because they are shaped differently. Okay, the D-pad one comes in a sort of cross shape, and the buttons one comes in very similar, but it's more circular. Okay, so this is the D-pad, these are the buttons. Right, super simple. I'm going to start with the buttons first. Take that out, take the new one and locate the 4 pins. I hope you can see. When you open your own controller, it will become very obvious. There are 4 small black pins and there are 4 tiny, tiny holes in the silicon here. Just place them on. Okay, locate your 4 holes. And once you have, you just press it in. Like only a bulk can. There we go. That's done. Right, then do the D-pad side. Take that one out. Take your D-pad rubber and put that in. Once you have done it for the first time, you'll wonder why it's so darn simple. And that's probably because these things just wear out real quick. So the reason why I have 2 controllers is because I knew all I had to do was to replace the internal rubber for my worn out first controller, but I couldn't be bothered to wait for the things to come in and then to repair it. There you go, that is now done. So I bought a second controller. Now I just have to repair 2 controllers every sort. For me, with the amount of down bashing that I do, or holding down back to block, for me, I go through a set of membranes every 3 to 4, maybe 6 months is what I get out of a controller. Okay, right, on to assembly next. Right, things that always fall out are the share and options buttons. Just make sure you get them in the right side. There's only one way they can go because they have tangs on the side and they're shaped. So put them in like so. I've taken the liberty of putting in my PlayStation Home button because that fell out too. This is, I'm going to call this the top half of the controller casing. Keep that upside down because the tricky bit is putting in the joysticks and the scrolly bit while keeping all the membranes in place. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my guts upside down. Yeah, that works. And go in joysticks first. Here, use the joysticks here. What I do is to get it out and to push it in is apply pressure this way. So push the control sticks, the joysticks up, and that would allow easier access into the holes. So put the joysticks in like that, and this is where you need to have about 7 hands working at the same time. You need to put the scrolly bit here. That scrolly bit needs to go in underneath this plastic bar. So it goes in the hole, the big hole, and hooks around the top of the scrolly bar. Okay? So it goes in, hook around at the top, while locating these 2 pins into the main motherboard and putting the joysticks into these 2 holes. Okay? So 3 hands is always a benefit. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Put it in, slide it under, locate the joysticks now. So here I'm going to push the joysticks up a little bit. There, that allows it to go in super easy. Then the 2 holes in the central board. Put the whole thing in. There we go, and we should be back to, finally you can pull the joystick through a little bit. There you go. Make sure, have a visual check, keep some pressure on. So I'm holding it now with I'm holding it now here, so I can check that the motors for the vibrations are in, the buttons are in. Yep, everything's fine. All we have to do now is screw it back together, put the battery back in, plug that in, and then screw it back up again. Okay. Now don't be worried about any of this stuff. It's very, very simple. The things that you think might go wrong, like plugging the battery in the wrong way around or anything, just ain't going to happen because all the plugs are made to go in one way. When you open up yours, you'll see for yourself. Okay, so first of all, take one of the screws, which are all identical. There are 5 screws in total and they're all identical. Pop it back in here. I might use my magnetic screwdriver, that might work. There you go. Before I break out any of the bigger tools which I think I might need. So here, that is in, hand tight, done. Battery, just put it in. Plug it in first, make sure you get it the right way around. Again, there's only one way it can go. What's the worst that could happen? So, battery plugged in. There we go. Get the cables nicely out of the way. Okay, so there we go. We have an installed battery. Again, what I did is the screw was underneath. Okay, I've screwed that back in. So everything's in tightly now. Then make sure that white cable, you don't break that. Okay, if you look very carefully, you might see a kink in the white cable here. That's because the first time I did this job, I pulled out the cable and had to put it back in again. And that's not easy. Right, put it back in, snap it together. Okay, you now have a controller and we can test it by pressing this button. Okay, which I'm not going to do because it will pause the video that I'm recording on the PlayStation. Okay, all technicalities. Right, once you've done your 4 screws on the back, you are good to go. Right, so I've screwed it all back up again, and As you can see, I've got the red light on this one because that's recording, but it's my P1 user account. So I'm going to try and go ahead and just test this out. I can feel the action on the buttons is hella better than it used to be. So that should make a big difference. So I'm going to see how this works. Hopefully it does. A light should come on and I should be asked which user I am. So there indeed you have it. That's how to replace the insides, the important bits of a standard controller. When I say important bits, i.e. the D-pad and buttons that you'd use in a fighting game like Mortal Kombat. And for the cost of literally a couple of pounds, euros, dollars, yen, whatever it is your currency of choice is, replacing these things doesn't take a lot of time. It takes very, very, very little money, and if you aren't as adventurous as I am with the toolage, then you can just use one of these. Okay, just use a tiny screwdriver. It prevents you from having to buy brand new controllers, which is always a plus point because they're not cheap. Yeah, spend the money on PlayStation Plus and beverages for when you're gaming. Anywho, I hope that the advice I gave was helpful to any of you out there, any of you that are watching. If it doesn't go so well, then maybe leave a comment in the description, although I wouldn't know how to help you even if you did. And if you destroy your controller, then maybe you shouldn't have used the blowtorch. That would have been a silly idea. It might have just been a joke. Anywho, GG's everybody. Hope to catch you in a different video. Ciao for now.